So the goals for this workshop today, we're hoping that this could be a very collaborative space. So it's not us talking to you, it's us having a conversation. We want to share Coursera's International Access Framework so you can have a sense of how we're thinking about access. We want to share best practices around two programs that we're doing. One is translations, the other is learning hubs. And we want to learn best practices from you all in terms of what you're doing in designing your courses and teaching your courses to reach international audiences. So outcomes, so by the end of this workshop, we hope that we can all walk away with knowledge about current things that are happening at Coursera and what we're doing to increase access. We want to give you a sense of how to plug into existing opportunities, should you choose to do that, and we want to continue conversations around ideas that you may have that maybe we can integrate and work on together to increase access to a global audience. Does that sound good to everyone? Great. And I tend to talk very fast, so if I'm talking too quickly, just feel free to say, please slow down, and I will make a conscientious effort to do that myself. So let's talk a little bit about the Coursera International Student Footprint. So this is a chart that was provided by our analytics team around the percentages of Coursera students that are US versus non-US. And the major point here is, as time has gone on from 2012 to now, we see that more and more so as our student population grows, the percentage of non-US continues to grow. And so we expect to see this chart continuing on this trend. As you may remember from this morning's opening remarks, 70% of our students are outside of the US. All right, and we've seen this chart as well, but I just want to call out again, these are our largest markets outside of the United States. The top one being India, and it has always, from the very beginning, been a huge market for us. England, Great Britain was third, and then quickly became second, and has been kind of on the same trajectory with Brazil. China, as Daphne mentioned this morning, we saw a huge growth trend once we started executing on a lot of our China strategy, namely our partnerships with NetEase and Gawker helped make this curve go up in a we call it hockey stick type of growth pattern. The US growth rate quarter after quarter on average is about 20%, and with every single one of these markets it's greater than 20. So stressing the point again of how quickly our international student audience is growing. So how does Coursera think about access? We think about access in terms of two hurdles that we have to cross. One is creating relevant content. So imagine you're a student, let's say in Morocco. What would be interesting content to you? It would be content that will help you achieve that next milestone in your life, whether it's career or getting into a university, what have you, a career change. It needs to be in the relevant language that is useful to you in terms of learning, and we need to think about a great way of delivering our experience to you. In a lot of markets, especially ones that are that may have less stable internet infrastructure like we have in UK or in the States. Mobile is one of these areas that we really have to pay a lot of attention to in terms of how do we deliver the content to you in a way that's easy and fast and friendly to you. All right, so let's talk about relevant content first. Maybe those of you in the back cannot see this because the text is relatively small. But in terms of relevant content, we're doing two major things. One is creating native language content. And so this is content taught in specific languages. So in Russia, we have 3 universities that are all teaching in Russian. And so in terms of relevance, much more relevant to a Russian audience. Same thing with a lot of our Taiwanese and Chinese universities. So that's native language content. And then we have our non-native language content, which effectively defaults to English right now. About 90% of our content is taught in English. And so thinking about how we can make that more useful to students that may not have English as their first language. So we're doing 2 things here. One is internationalization of the platform and the tools. So as Daphne mentioned earlier today, we have localized our user interface into about 6 major languages, the newest one being Turkish. So when a student comes to the Coursera website from those particular countries, we, through IP detection or through language Yeah, on the y-axis you see this, this is the number of times a course has run. And this is the number of students that have enrolled in the course. And so you see that the courses that run, these are the 10 most popular courses, by the way. If they run more frequently, they're able to generally capture more students. And the ones that are that have the yellow hats on them are the ones that happen to also be translated into at least one language outside of English. So again, illustrating the point that when we make content more available, more students are reached. It could be through frequency, and it could be through the availability in different languages. All right. Something else to note here is this is from our initial translation experiment that we did with 10 courses that were translated into Portuguese from English. And once we saw that a course was translated into Portuguese, we saw that enrollments tripled. And this was true for all of the Portuguese courses that were initially translated. There are about 10 of them now. Again, this is one language, and it was done during one period of time. Again, this is not to indicate a trend, but just an exciting type of opportunity that we see. Great. Okay. This is a fun list. These are the list of the 10 most popular courses in 3 large markets that we've chosen. So first we have China, Mexico, and Brazil. And what we noticed here is that in China, the top 10 courses are all courses that are either natively taught in Chinese or have been translated into Chinese. Okay. And with Mexico, same type of trends in the sense that even more so than China, the top 5 courses are ones that are natively taught in Spanish from our partners UNAM and Tec de Monterrey. And the other courses we see here are courses that aren't translated into Spanish yet, but we have a commitment to translate them into Spanish because we know that without Spanish subtitles, these are already popular. So if we were to provide Spanish subtitles, we will be able to attract even more students. And the same thing for Brazil. So just wanted to make a note of just interesting trends that we've seen. Any questions here?
Yeah,
Yes.
When you speak about translation,
Yes.
you mean translation of the course or subtitles?
Subtitles. Translation of the lecture content. Yes. Nadav?
Do you see any correlation between areas and certain subjects that are more popular?
Yeah, we do, actually.
That information.
Yeah, so
Those of us that need to choose courses.
I'm sorry?
That would be relevant for us, the partners choosing courses.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. So let me answer his question very quickly. So yes, we typically see trends. I will make so in these countries, I would say
I can't see the...
Yeah, this is it's very, very small. So for Mexico, we see there's a trend to courses that are either in entrepreneurship, creativity, so starting business. That's very popular. For, let me see, other countries. For India, any guesses for what the... I'm sorry?
biology.
You're only saying that because that's a course that your university puts on. I know you. But for India, any guesses as to the overwhelming trend of courses that are popular? Programming, yes. Programming, introduction to programming, and introduction to math courses are predominantly the most popular courses in India. Also, what's interesting about India is that we see this age bell curve for average Coursera users, and the average Coursera user is between 25 and around 40. For India, it skews much younger. Yeah, so there's interesting correlation there. And I want to make sure I get to your question.
Who translates the content of the books?
Yes, we will get to that.
Okay.
Yes.
And what do you mean by popular? Because the notion of popular should depend on the level of the course. Of course, if you want to have a huge number of Courserians attending to some MOOCs, you should have only introductory course.
Right.
If you
Right.
want to have also advanced course,
Yeah.
you should have another definition of popular.
So this is popular, and the definition here is the single run course, so it's not compounded if a course ran multiple times. Those are single courses with the most number of enrollments. But yeah, point well taken. Yep. Yes.
In the list of languages there, it seems to me Arabic is missing. Have you had any interest from Arabic?
So yes, Arabic is a language that we're definitely interested in. We have been waiting for our platform to be right to left capable. So without that functionality, Arabic, Hebrew are a little bit harder to do, and so it's definitely on our radar. All right, so let's move on. So we talked about relevant content, and now talking about delivery. So when we're thinking about delivery, there are a few ways that we're approaching this problem. One is thinking about how do we actually deliver the content to our students in the most canonical way that's easy and fast for them to access. So you heard this morning that we are releasing our Android application this week, and we've already launched our iOS application. So in terms of mobile, that's something that we've spent the past 2 quarters working very, very hard on. And in terms of how do we work with the cell carriers in particular countries to actually give people an easier way of using our app is something that we're working on right now. So we're in conversations with Telmex and Claro for Mexico and Brazil. And we've already been working with Econet, which is a small telco company in Zimbabwe that is actually 0 rating Coursera content. And so any subscriber to Econet, when they go to Coursera.org, the content and the data they consume is free. So that's one thing that we're doing. The other thing that we're doing, which we'll talk about today, is learning hubs. So how many people know what learning hubs are? A few, great. All right, so for those of you that didn't raise your hand, an overview about learning hubs. This is a chart on the percentage of the general population enrolled in tertiary education. Okay, this is from the World Bank, accurate as of 2012, I believe. So you see that countries like the U.S., countries like Russia have really, and Australia have high percentage of enrollment in tertiary education. But some of the countries, especially in Africa, have very, very low enrollments. And so, we thought if there is low enrollments, what could Coursera do in order to kind of fill the gap? And so that's where we came up with the Learning Hubs idea. So this is an idea that initiated in November of last year. Yes.
Very quick speaking.
Oh,
We are very
thank
quick
you.
speaker,
Thank
but
you
I
for
will-
calling me
so,
out on that.
Learning Hub
Yes.
is depending on the number of people that could enroll to tertiary education or the number of people in general, quantity of people.
Just the quantity of people.
Just
So
the
so we see that there is a
It doesn't have anything to do with the potential of people that enrolls to the university.
correct. Yeah. Yeah. So we decided to start learning hubs because from a few organic examples that we saw of how people were using the Coursera content outside of the brick and mortar definition. And so we saw that the Department of State was opening their embassy spaces to welcome people from a local region to come and learn about American education. Okay, so we saw that Department of State was doing this. We thought, there could be an opportunity for us to work with them because we have a lot of content, and this could be a really great diplomacy tool for a particular region. We also have been working with the Slim Foundation in Mexico to say, there seems to exist a really great network of spaces that A, have internet infrastructure, B, can attract a lot of potential people to come to these spaces, and C, there's an availability of facilitators in each one of these 2,000 locations. And so the program has started, and to date we have around learning hubs in about 33 countries. And we're onboarding a new batch of partners next week. So new partners are popping up in Africa. We also, and this is not going to be announced until next week, so if there's anyone from press in the office in the room, this is under embargo until next week, but we are partnering with the New York Public Library System to have their 92 libraries be learning hubs as well. And so this is a really, really great program that allows people to enjoy the MOOC learning experience with a hyper-local context, where there's a social layer of learning that really incentivizes them to come to these locations and digest the MOOC content. What we've seen so far in terms of learnings from November until now is that we know that the average completion rate for a MOOC course without any sort of face-to-face interaction, without signature track, is around 5 to 10%. And with our learning hubs, we know that on the low end, our completion rates are at least 30%. On the high end, it's around 100%. So people are really enjoying being in these learning hubs, and what we've seen is a few different trends emerge. One is that students are very excited to participate because at the end of it, they get to go to a graduation ceremony, which in a lot of countries, maybe outside of UK or the US, means a big deal to be able to participate in some type of graduation. For them to be able to say, I went through this experience and now I have finished, and this is a way to celebrate. Another trend that we're seeing, which Yulia will talk about in a little bit, is that we've seen that companies in local areas are coming to learning hubs and saying, oh, this is a great place for potential, for us to really see potential hires come from these experiences. They're acting as mentors, they're acting as sponsors. So very interesting trends that we're seeing.
Well, could I ask a question, please, about
Yeah.
this 30 locations Department of State? Do they come in and literally take the course on that place because that's got broadband? I mean, is that 5 nights a week? And how many courses can you do? Well, I suppose you've got broadband, you could have 6 or 7 going.
Right, so there are a few different models, and that's an excellent question. So the question was, how do people come and how do they interact with this space? Do they, are they there 24/7? If they wanted to be, they could. But for most of these hubs, groups of people will identify a course or two that they want to take, and depending on what model they ascribe to. 1 is a project-based model, 2 is a tutoring-based model, and 3 is just a general facilitated model. I would say the most of the learning hubs do a facilitated model where once a week a group of people will meet. They will have watched the lectures ahead of time, whether it's at home or in the facility earlier during that week. And during that hour and a half meeting that they have each week, they discuss questions that come from the previous week's lecture.
Yes, but take a rather poor country in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
for example.
Mm-hmm.
When you say they look at the video before,
Mm-hmm.
but some of them might find that difficult to do even that.
Right, and so however a student access the content in whatever context and whatever model they choose, it's really flexible. So in Africa, I'll give you a good example, and this is a facilitated model that they're working on. In Kenya, this learning hub here, this is at an orphanage. This is an orphanage that has about 1,000 students, of which they selected around 30 to participate in this experimental program. There's no internet at this particular hub, 0 whatsoever. So they're completely offline. What they're doing is they're taking Raspberry Pis, which are really cheap computers, and they're taking a memory card. They're downloading the content from a town nearby that has internet connection, downloading all the videos, and that's the most important part, to these memory cards, putting in the Raspberry Pis, taking it to the orphanages so the students can watch lectures, and then before they come to discussion. So, that's a very extreme case. In a lot of other locations, they tend to, access it on their phones or from their desktops at home. Yes?
From we're partners in the Teacher Professional Development
Yes.
portal, and I'm curious, sort of backing up a little, first of all, where globally does most interest seem to be among teachers, and are there particular, how are teachers in particular intersecting with learning hubs?
Yeah, that is a really, really great question. I was going to bring it up. I'm glad you asked the question. So in terms of teacher professional development, we see a huge amount of interest in India, first and foremost. And in terms of the requests that we're getting for organizations that want to be part of the Learning Hubs program, around 23 to 25% are coming just from India. And we know that they have primary interest in teacher professional development. Another area that we're seeing pop up is in Mexico, where teacher professional development is one of the primary primary strategic goals for our partnership with the Slim Foundation. And also in Brazil too, we're just beginning conversations with Lemon Foundation, and they are very interested in teacher professional development and developing a learning hub system there. Yep, great. So just overlapping that first map to this map here, we already see where there's lighter colors. There are certain learning hubs popping up, and we hope that we can have even more of learning hubs popping up, especially in areas where there might be the most need. So without belaboring the point, because both Young and Yuli are going to talk about learning hubs in the context of what they're doing, I will move on to the next part of this workshop. So we wanted to make this interactive, and we wanted to hear from you all some of the things that you are doing in terms of maybe from a university perspective or from a course level perspective on reaching out to international audiences. So we shared with you some of the things that we're doing. We would love it if you could maybe gather with 3 or 4 people around you to answer these 4 questions, or 3 questions, I'm sorry. What is your goal in reaching an international audience? What hypothesis do you have on how to do that? And what are the things that you've tried so far, whether if you're an instructor or an administrator, and what has worked and what hasn't worked. We would love to learn a little bit more. So if we can take about 5 minutes to talk amongst ourselves and then come back and share some of our learnings, that would be great. Thank you, everyone, for sharing these thoughts with us. I think there are a few trends that we're seeing emerging from what everyone has said. Marketing and branding is a big incentive in terms of putting courses on Coursera to reach an international audience, whether it's just engage students on the platform or further engage them as degree students. Thinking about translations and quality is very, very important, and just exploring what potential there might be in reaching a lot of harder to reach populations and large populations. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Yang Liu, who will talk to us about what Guoke has been doing with Coursera to enable access for students, particularly in China.
Thank you for the introduction. My name is Yang Liu. I'm from Guoke, one of the most popular social networking sites for science communication and knowledge sharing in China. Just now, I heard a lot of stories from you, and I'm going to tell you some stories that happened in our online MOOCs community. We call it MOOC Academy. Sounds big. Okay, I put a walnut here. I first want to introduce what is Guoke. Guoke literally means nutshell. We want to open up the nutshell of knowledge so that people can enjoy. Okay, so I'll start with telling you how our translation group started. So this girl in the middle and her learning partners made a lot of people jealous. Last year, when they took irrational behavior, they started an online classroom for this class. They share lecture notes and reviews, and when they have problems, they solve them together. For example, we often hear people complain that Chinese people complain that they're not used to the Western learning style. For example, once the teacher assigned 100 papers and asked them to read all of them before the quiz. And it's really unrealistic for those whose native language is not English. So what they did is they split the assignment, and everyone read only 6 or 7 papers. And after 2 days, they come back and share with each other the summaries. Finally, they all passed the quiz. And at the end of this course, among the 20 students who formed this online classroom, 11 got certificates. It is really remarkable if you consider the completion rate. So these people made a lot of people jealous, as I said before. But some people say, I really want to join you, but my English is poor. So some people from this group just translated all the subtitles for them. So they formed this translation group. They call it Education Without Borders Translator Group. So from here, we had official collaboration with Coursera. Sorry, I steal this image from slides. Because we feel proud that we also contributed to this change. Because this change happened in last October, and last September was the time when Coursera and the Guoke formed the official translation collaboration. Before that, our translation group finished translating 2 courses. But after that, until now, we finished more than 50, if I didn't remember it wrong. It really helped a lot for those people whose English is not good. And just to echo what Yin said just now, when we translate one course, we have a group of people, say, for example, 10 or 20. Some of them are translators, and some of them are editors. So we do proofreading and things like that before we upload it to Coursera's platform. But at the same time, I also want to mention that we not only does translation, we also collaborated with the media. Like say, for example, last year we collaborated with Xinhua News Agency, which is a state press agency. We published 3 articles on MOOC. This helped a lot of people come to know what MOOC is and what is the spirit of MOOC. And also at the same time, about the same time, edX announced this new online study portal, XueTangX. We collaborated with them and used our social media to introduce what is MOOC, what is XueTangX. Although it's another platform, I know, but it also helped with Coursera. Okay, let me get back to the translation. Now we have, at the very beginning, we have only 20 volunteers who translated the irrational behavior, but now we have more than 400. And we finished this certain number of courses. I think the official collaboration between us really encouraged them because they got these official certificates saying they are official translators. So I read a lot of comments on our MOOC Academy thanking them, and someone said, I'm already 50 years old, and now I can follow the course as you young guys. Okay, so we want to know, except for language barrier, what are the other obstacles facing the learners. So at the end of last year, we did a big survey to about 6,000 MOOC learners. Thank Coursera for helping us posting the survey. So from the result, I know this is tiny, but a lot of people, most of the people complain that they don't have enough time except for the schoolwork. And they're not satisfied with their persistence and their determination. And some, more than 55 say they have language barrier. And from this figure, you can say that they need some help choosing the right course for them. I think MOOC Academy can serve this function because we have class reviews and teacher reviews which can help them to choose the course. And last, 20% of them say they don't have classmates to discuss the class material. So at that time, we see Coursera opens the application for Learning Hub partners. So we think it's worth trying because it will give them classmates. So we applied and got approval right away. But to do it is not very easy. Here I'm showing you a map of Beijing. It doesn't look so complicated as London, I think. But I can assure you that Beijing is bigger and the traffic is bad. So even if, no matter in which corner you're hosting your learning hub, it will take hours for the learners to all come together. So in terms of that, time is really expensive to do that. So we have to, well, I'm sorry to say that we just applied last month, so we're still in the very experimental stage. So, well, we're trying really hard. So the first problem is we want to find a good location which can gather as many people as possible. And also we want to find funding for our learning hubs because we have to find space and sometimes food and drink. So the first thing that we tried is we negotiated with some companies in Beijing, and we convinced them to lend us spare offices to run learning hubs. So and those companies are very happy because they're using spare offices, and also they're happy to see young people who like study come to their office. So we tried a couple times already. Sometimes still people want to come from very far away places. But we want to find more offices so that we can have learning hubs locally. But there's one problem. You know, in China, there are only a certain number of people who knows MOOC and a certain number of people who take lessons through MOOC. And in Beijing, this number is very smaller. And in every corner of Beijing, and you have to find people who is taking the same lesson to come to the learning hub. So we think that we have to find a way to really reach to a new group of people. So this is the second experiment. We collaborated with the largest real estate developer in China, Vanke. So so what they did is they sent out flyers and WeChat messages to their residents, and then introduce what MOOC is and what are the potential courses that we can have learning hubs. So we, Guoke's MOOC Academy, choose the best vote. And then we send out links and class materials to the residents. And the next weekend, we'll go there and to organize these learning hubs. Right now, we're not doing a lot. We're doing it only in Beijing and Hangzhou, and we're running 2 courses. One is child nutrition. Apparently, there are a lot of housewives, working at home. Somebody like those who want to learn something about nutrition. And the second one is irrational behavior, which is always a popular course in China. So this is how the learning hub look like. Not very good quality, but we see a combination of the audience. Here, you can see something like a smiley face. That's a sweater of a pregnant woman. She's expecting her second child. And also, one mom is bringing her 5-year-old son, who always want to share people what he eats every day. And he also helped her mom to draw answers. And here's also one oldest learner that we ever seen. She just had her grandson, who is 3 months old, and she is about like 60 or 70-year-old. Well, this is, as I said, in a very experimental stage, and I know it's not really applicable for everybody, because in China, the learners are all scattered around China, including small cities, small towns. They cannot easily come together and have learning hubs. So some of our users are very smart. They started the E version. Somehow the E got deleted. They started the E version of Learning Hub. So this is how it looked like. This guy, I don't know he or she, is called Waterfall. And before the irrational behavior course started, this post is already there, introducing what the course will look like, and who is the instructor, and the books by the instructor, and the TED Talks. And he or she also called for volunteers to translate the course, and preheat. And she asked the people who is willing to join to sign up. There's an online registration form. They got 700 people already in this group. And every week they have an individual post to talk about the class material. It's just like the real Learning Hub is just online, happen online every day. And this mom has a part-time job, NGO job, and also has a son. And her husband is not around. She must be very busy, but she's taking 3 to 5 courses at the same time. She also led translation for several courses. Last year, she wrote a post to encourage people to tell people how she manages her time. And this year, by the way, her NGO focuses on environmental protection. So this year, she's taking How Green is a Product, the name of the course. So she started her own e-learning hub, online learning hub, and then she video chat with the students every week. She actually acts as a TA. So last, I want to summarize and talk more about the idea of localization. We think that localization is not only about translation from English to Chinese. It's also the adaptation of the teaching style. Because, just now I heard a lot of people say they translate certain courses and bring it to somewhere else. But last year I attended Qatar Education Summit, and I heard someone from Kong Academy say that they have this huge package that is ready to deliver to rural area. But some other people tell me that the curriculum of their own country is not the same as the one in the US. So when they got those whole packages, they don't know how to use it. So it's a huge problem. Here I'm showing you the 2 most popular teachers in MOOC Academy. Those are all from National Taiwan University. You may already seen him. He's one of the speakers. So maybe Yin knows that Taiwanese and Chinese speak similar language, but actually it's not exactly the same. And also the teaching is dramatically different. So it's kind of hard for us to adapt as well. What they did is before the course started, they started to be very active in our online community. They talk to students and post the syllabus and post everything online. So I think it really helps the students to understand why they designed the course like this, and the students really appreciate that. I think that's a good way in terms of localization. Well, now we're happy that there are 400,000 Chinese MOOCers all through the world, mainly in China. And more than 280,000 are registered users in MOOC Academy. And they spend about 10 to 15 minutes every day here to share information. And in general, it's really surprising that Chinese learners usually take more lessons compared to the figure worldwide. We think that MOOC is like a e-version of university, and we wish all the students will like it and is willing to spend more time here. That's all I want to share. Thank you for your attention.
So, Digital October, just to make it short, what it is. There was a chocolate factory called Red October. And that building is right across the Kremlin, huge red brick building. But over the time, the factory moved to rural areas, and we started to build a place for great thinkers who are thinking internationally, who are thinking globally, who are thinking in terms of doing good for everybody, okay? And we decided that we want to develop that digital technological side of things, okay? Because we felt that we do have an experience in that and we can do it. So right now, Digital October is a space, it is a venue where different kinds of conferences are going on. But besides of that, we do have our own projects. And I'm director of education at that place. And my activities are focused in between those three areas. It's media, tech, and education. Okay, with the help of the technology, we are able to mix it all up and to make online streamings, to make, I call them teleports, telepresence lectures, okay, to make that connection through thousands and thousands of kilometers, different time zones. And when you don't have really a difference whatsoever, and you feel like it is happening right here with you. Very briefly, what we do, Knowledge Stream, and what my team does. Knowledge Stream is a project who let me meet Daphne Koller, the founder of Coursera, and we invited her to give a telepresence lecture, and that's how we started to work with Coursera too. We are doing learning hubs and translations. I will talk about that later. And we are also launching a new project. It's called New Professions Lab, and I think it's needed to note that one of new professions is online course producer. My main thought here is that great producers of the world and Hollywood should turn into educational niche as well, and we should make a different kind of experience for those who study online. That's our, it's not seen very well, but that's our DO, Digital October logo in Coursera. And there is a joke at Digital October that there is so much Coursera in what we do, in how we support, that many people come up to me and thank me for founding Coursera. The translation. First, we decided to translate just to find. We financed the first gamification translated subtitles ourselves, and financial market is another course that is now. Rick, your new CEO, was mentioning that course's author, Bob Schiller, Nobel Prize winner, and we are dubbing that course. And one of my team members is supporting himself that translation. So it was a corporate partnership support and individual support, and we tried both of it. Expensive, too long, frustrating, and it takes a lot of work to get these partners to, make them do all that work, and it's really hard for when it comes to time. Okay, when you work with a professional agency, so their resources are limited anyways. So. We thought who could do it faster, and we had a solution. Just like so, it's a platform, crowdsourced platform that combines, as I say, robots and volunteers. Okay, it's the technology that creates a very nice environment for people to collaborate, okay, on that. And we just launched, and I hope that you could hear at least something.
My name is Julia Lesnikov. I'm head of education programs here at Digital October Center, and I'm happy to welcome you.
That's the launch of that project. Let's translate Coursera.
Coursera. He's already connected to us, and he's now in Silicon Valley.
I think, as you know, we view translations as an important part of that quest. Even though most of our courses today are taught in English, we also have a number of courses taught in other languages, including in Russian.
Coursera currently has over 500 courses. For one translator, it will take 150 years to translate. It will take 15 years for 10 people, but 10,000 people can do it in 3 days. Coursera is a great project.
And it's just that here you could see, Jesus, you didn't see the last great part. Well, anyways, it just here you could see the telepresence lectures that we did, right? And that dubbing, that simultaneous translation that we do, we use it in all of our projects. So it is not a voiceover that was recorded afterwards. It's a person that does it simultaneously. Okay, and that great guy is one of our solid partners that we found for big data courses. Okay. And now I guess we don't have much time left, right? Like 2 minutes, yes. So I will talk a little bit about learning hubs, and it's a pity that you are not able to see the video that we shoot just for you. Okay. So I think that we already ran 4 learning hubs, and right now we are coming to an end of a gamification one. It is a very dear subject to us as soon as we translated the subtitles. And what is great, we are working on practical projects. Real companies give us their mobile applications and tasks to be solved. And we are trying to implement the ideas that Professor Verbach from Penn State is giving us. And it's great. It's really great. I think I'm showing you that little video, 2 minutes, because seriously, we were shooting it just for you in English. So I made them speak.
And here at Digital October, I'm the facilitator on Coursera Learning Hub on gamification. The main point of Learning Hub to get the projects students can actually practice on. And
You can't
in our
really
case, these are 3 projects. One of them is mobile application.
My name is Bayram. I'm a business mentor to Digital October Learning Hub on gamification.
Can you hear at all?
I propose to use our product Inflow, which is a mood tracking app, to be used at the brainstorming sessions at this course. So people would come up with the ideas how to improve retention in our app.
We're doing good. Students developed the solution, several of them.
So that's how it's going on.
To be implemented.
We have this upward coming graph of active users. The same is with the number of users who may check in, at least one check-in this day. So we see some improvement.
Okay, I wouldn't bother you with not a very good hearing. So, you know, I've already mentioned that partner that we found for the Learning Hubs program as well for big data only, but I do believe that that would be a good example, okay, of how a company steps out and just takes a lead in developing some field of knowledge, which is great. And we are ready to, as Digital October, to step out with all that cool technological stuff and do telepresence lectures with the course authors, okay, in order to keep the motivation of those people who are starting in our learning hubs. And we're also planning to scale to regional learning hubs. You know how big our Russia is, okay? So Vladivostok is just as far as Palo Alto. So what we are trying to do, and we'll test it with big data learning hubs, and if any of you are running something related to big data, I would be happy to explore further. But what we will do is we will have hubs in different universities, and they will in flipped classroom, they will watch Coursera, but we will gather them together online, okay, with a center in Digital October, streaming it online, and they will be able to join us and our mentors and facilitators. Okay, and that's the last slide that I think is really cute. Thank you.
All right, everyone, thank you so much. We're already over time. Just 2 very simple housekeeping items. And I realize I don't have my mic on, but this would be okay.
I can give you mine.
Okay, great.
It's
Thank
like,
you.
you know.
Okay. Okay, so we talked about a lot today in this presentation, and we said as one of our outcomes we would like for you to be, each of you to be very, very clear on how you can have your course translated, and if you want a course that you're teaching to be part of a Learning Hub experience. So if you want your course to be translated, this is the Coursera admin panel. When you're setting up your course, there is a field in the setup that says, please consider my course for translations. And so if you click that, then that'll go into our database, and we'll be able to eventually translate that into our 5 key languages right now, which will expand into, we hope, 13 or 14 of our major languages. So that's one thing about translations. If you would like for your course to be facilitated in a Learning Hub, for example, if you're teaching a teacher professional development course and you know that there's a lot of interest in Brazil and Mexico, please let us know by going to the Coursera Partners portal. This has been redesigned, and click on Outreach and Marketing, and there should be a field for you to fill out there. Okay? Great. So with that, I want to thank our 2 presenters who've traveled a long way to be here to tell us about what they've been doing. So thank you, Young, and thank you, Yulia. Really appreciate the work that you're doing and helping further reach audiences that are at a much larger scale than universities can run on their own, Coursera can run on their own. So thank you for the work that you're doing. And thank you all for sharing some of the great ideas and thoughts that you have around how we can further speed up access. And we hope that we can continue to work with you to make some of these ideas that you have turn into programs, turn into initiatives that we do. So thank you very much for attending, and hope you have a great rest of the afternoon here.